Hi, this is Doug Cowan. Welcome back to my office. In this video, we're going to talk about ways to help your child, your teenager, to get more done, to learn faster, to remember things better. I'm going to give you some really specific things that you can do. I'm looking at all the stuff that I have here that I'm going to show you. Some real specific ideas for you that you can pass on to your child or teenager just to help them with getting schoolwork done at home, studying for a test, even getting chores done at home. So the first thing we're going to look at is the whole concept of working memory. Now, working memory is kind of a technical term to talk about the kind of memory that we have where we take what we've been told to do, asked to do, we think we ought to be doing, whatever it is, and we hold that up here and the front part of our head, we hold that in this working memory, which is we remember it long enough to get the job done. Now, working memory is limited in that neuroscientists will say that working memory will only hold about as much information as a sticky note or a 3x5 card. And that's all that it will hold in working memory. So for some of your children, especially younger ones and maybe teenagers, we're talking about like 3 things that you can tell them to do. And I have heard parents tell their kids, go in your room, pick up the clothes, make your bed, put the stuff away, come back out, feed the dog, and I'll see you in 10 minutes. No, you won't, because you just told them 6 things to do. So usually 3 is the limit, and go to your room is 1. And come back out as 1. So you're going to have to be careful with, like the genie who says you get 3 wishes. You're going to have to be careful how you use those, especially with younger kids. So think that all through. One of the bases for everything we do here is that hope is not a strategy, that we have to look at what it is we do have to do in order to get our child from beginning a task to ending the task, to the finish line. How do we get to the finish line? And that's what we want. So here are some techniques to help you. Remembering that working memory, again, sticky note, 3x5 card, that's all it's going to do with people who do not have ADD. And people who have ADD, ADHD, it's going to even be harder. So that's why I say 3 things, it's about the max. And even at that, when you have shiny objects that can distract somebody, those shiny objects will crowd out what it is they're trying to remember in the working memory, that those distractions will do that. So again, we need to be strategic. We need to have a good plan. Implement the plan, make it work, and you'll see some improvements. At school, homework is the big problem. Teacher will tell the child, okay, here's your homework assignment for the day. And by the time the child gets home, again, it's a working memory issue. So you see school districts coast to coast are really working hard to get things in writing. So if the school teacher can only put it up on the chalkboard what the homework assignment is, then you want your child to have an assignment book that they can copy it, the homework assignment, into that book, get that book home so you can see it. So it's in writing. But a lot of schools are going to websites where the teacher every day will put up what the homework assignment is for that child. That's great. Way to go, school districts. You want to see it in writing what the homework assignment is. If the child says, no, there was no homework, 1 of 2 reasons. One is they're lying to you. The other is they forgot, because we're talking about working memory deficits. That's one of kind of the definitions of ADHD. It's a working memory problem. So if that's what's going on, you want to help your child with assignment books or, boy, that website. You check the website. You remember to check that website every day. But at home, what do? You don't have a website to tell your child, these are the chores you got to do today, or these are the things I want you to do. You don't post them online. You want to be able to tell your child what it is you want them to do. So again, limits, sticky note, 3 things, 3x5 card. That's all you got in the working memory slot. So one of the things that can help is put your hand on the child's shoulder when you talk to them. Distance and success somehow are related. There's got to be some math formula. If you're across the room and you're asking your child to do something, good luck with that. But if you're standing close enough that you can put your hand on their shoulder, somehow that information not only goes from your mouth to their ears, but it runs down your arm into their shoulder and into their brain. So you get more compliance by doing that. Just lightly touch them on the shoulder and say, here's what I'd like you to do. And then ask them to repeat it to you. And not only repeat it, because that can just be a short-term memory thing that spins in and then spins out, but repeat it and kind of explain it. Why do you think I want you to go put your shoes away? That's right, because they're here in the family room. We got company coming over. We need them in your room. Okay, very good. Would you do that, please? And so you can get close enough to touch them, to say what it is you want them to do, ask them to kind of repeat it, ask them to kind of explain it if they need to, and they'll probably get it. The odds of success go way up if you do that. And you say, well, why do I need to take all that time? I should just tell him. He goes and does it. Yeah, well, look at real life, what really happens. You tell him, he doesn't do it. You tell him again, he doesn't do it. Tell him again, now you got to fight. You tell him again, it gets worse. And we've just wasted half an hour. No, just do it that way. Take the extra 15 seconds and try to get compliance the first time. Now, with some repetitive tasks like daily chores, it's okay to have a piece of paper up there with images, toothbrushing and whatever else that you do every day. It's okay to have a checklist. Depends upon the age of the child. They'll respond better to one or the other. One of the things that we've done for years is we get envelopes, cut them in half. Now they're little basket things, little slots, and tape them to a string. And on one side of the child's door, hang it down over here. The other side of the door, hang it down over there. And just write on it something like, brush your teeth, make your bed, pick up your clothes. Whatever it is, the kind of repetitive things that you do every day. And then put like a card in that slot, like a time card at work. And when they do the task, they move it over to this side, put it in there. And then when they fill up all the envelopes, then they're done. They're good. So there's actually a physical thing to doing it, just like you picking up your time card at work, putting it in the slot, putting it back. So that can be, as silly as that sounds, that can be very helpful for kids. I'm just going to glance at my notes here for a second. Okay, when it comes to learning, how do we get our kids to, in the time that they're invested in studying, to actually be more productive? We want productivity out of that study time. If they're going to go to the room and they're going to be in the room for an hour working on homework, how do we get them not just to be productive? Productive means they're doing stuff. We want them to be efficient. We want them to finish stuff. So how do we help enhance that? First, when it comes to reading, it's okay to have them read the end of the chapter first. It's okay. We're trying to get the big picture and then look at the small individual items. Read the end of the novel first, go right ahead. See how it ends, see where we're going. Read the end of the chapter first. Find those study questions at the end of the chapter. Write them down. Say, this is what we're going to try to find when we're reading. Find the point to it. What's the main point of the chapter? So this is a little 3x5 card that I make for lots and lots of people. Normally I use this just to talk about different communication styles, a funnel and an inverted funnel. That in marriages, maybe your relationships, that there's usually one person who tells a story like this. We start with all the details and what a nice day it was. And and I saw so-and-so at the store, and it was just so fun. And then they're working to some point. You just know it's going to take a while to get to it. And then finally they tell you what the point of the conversation is. And then other people are over here. The point comes first. And this is the point. And then I'm going to tell you all the details later, now that you know what the point of the story is. This is really helpful in relationships and helps you to understand. And those of you who are like this, like me, like this, if your spouse or significant other is like this, be patient. Learn patience. It's a virtue. And they'll get there eventually, but But people like this are saying that when I'm talking to you, it's building our relationship. And that's the most important thing to me, not the point of the story. That's moderately important, but our relationship's really important. So that's what I'm doing. People over here tend to just say, the conversation's important or I would just be quiet. So we get to the point and then we tell all the details later and we can relax later once we've communicated the point. The learning can be like this. Textbooks can be like this. Textbooks can just go on and on and on. And if you can't find what the point is, it's very hard to learn it. So find the point of the chapter, find the point of the paragraph, write it down, and then look at the little details that support the thesis of the chapter or the paragraph. Learn like this. Here's another way, another thing that you can do to help you to learn. And these are called, people call them mind maps. This right here is for a project that I'm starting to do for entrepreneurs with ADHD, to do coaching with them. And these are all the different parts of life that we're going to cover in the coaching time together. And what we see in the middle is the main thing. And then the circles that go around it, those are the topics that we're going to make sure we cover. They're the important points. And then the little sticks that come off of that and the little phrases, then all of those things they're also important or they wouldn't be on there, but they are kind of the supporting fractional points to cover. So this is called a mind map. It's a non-linear way of taking notes. One way of taking notes is 1, ABC, 2, ABC, 3, ABC, taking notes that way. It's linear, but the brain likes this better. Your brain will like taking notes like this. So this is actually my one-page notes for a sermon that I did at a church in town about 3 weeks ago. And the main points in the middle, so I can keep coming back to the main points. I start at the top of the page, and then I work my way around clockwise and cover all of the main points. All I have to do is glance at this paper, and I know where I'm at, and then I see the supporting kind of comments that I want to make, and I just work my way around the sheet of paper. So that kind of a mind map is a great way to kind of take notes. What's the main point? Put it in the middle. And you can find it like, what's the title of the chapter? The author will do that for you. Title of the chapter goes in the middle. And then those big headings that are like 1/4-inch print, put those as the bubbles around. And then come back and go, all right, what are the main points of each paragraph in that sub thing? And put them off to the side. And then you can see it graphically. Be very helpful both as you do it and then as you're studying for the test later. Just one more tip. Let's talk about highlighting in the book. If it's a textbook, it doesn't belong to you, don't do it. But if you own the book, then mark it up all you want. And the reason why you highlight things is not so much for studying right now as it is for the second time you come back and look at the book, which we always should do. If the book's good enough for us to read once, we should come back a second time and just read the highlights. Now, you and I both need to learn. We're learning constantly. I don't care what age you are. We need to be learning constantly. So we're always got some book that we're looking at, reading, going to come back to later, work on. But if your child's studying, this becomes really, really important for them. So the highlighter, and the book. What is it that we're going to highlight? The tendency is to highlight too much. We just want to highlight the main point of a paragraph or the main point of 2 or 3 paragraphs. What's the main point? When you highlight that, then come back later, like 2 hours later, and just look at the highlights. That will help lock it in. And then here's something that we can do now because the technology is so easy. You grab your phone and dictate the highlighted notes into your phone. Now, when I was going to graduate school 100 years ago, I was working at a cement factory all day and then classes I was taking at night. So up at 4:30 in the morning, at work 6:30, 7 o'clock, work until 4, 5 o'clock, driving over to grad school. Classes started at 6, got done at 10 at night, drive home, go to sleep. So that was kind of my life. So studying was hard. And I'd try to do it during lunchtime, and I'd try to do it whenever I could. But I was going to be in my car for a little bit. So when the big test was coming up, it might be a Saturday with my notes, it might be a Sunday afternoon with my notes, I would read those notes, the highlights. I would read them into a cassette player. Half of you listening have never seen a cassette, but now it's replaced by this. And I would drop that cassette into my car, and when I was driving to work or driving home, I'd listen to it. I'd listen to the highlights. Most of the time, I would hear something and I would say, I have never heard that before. But obviously I'd heard it before. I read it into the machine. And I was listening to my own voice come out of the stereo in my car. The point is we learn from different channels. So if you highlight it, because it's important, and then you read it into your whatever dictation, whatever thing you've got, voice recorder in your phone, then listen to it later as well. And chances are you're going to say, wow, I've never heard that. Learn it from that as well. So we're learning it from looking at it, we're learning it from listening to it, we're learning it from actually speaking it. All of those things are helpful. So use highlights as part of a strategy for that. For what am I going to come back later, read into my voice recorder, and then listen to later. And what am I going to highlight to come back? And as I skim the book later, I'm just going to look at the highlights. Use highlights as a strategy that way. So I'm Dr. Doug Cowan. Thanks for coming to my office. Just want to remind you, Susie and I have started this podcast. It might be fun. You might want to listen to it. It's on the iTunes podcast channel and a number of other channels. It's called In the Living Room with Susie and Dr. Doug. And we talk about things like parenting issues, marriage issues. We want to help to build your marriage, your family, your faith, and your health. So we'll also be talking about health issues and certainly matters of faith as we go along. So In the Living Room with Susie and Dr. Doug. And thanks for listening to this video. Hope it's helpful. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks.